Makes a bucket and a foul. Breakaway. Io.
Oh, meet me at the rim and don't be late.
Give me the hot sauce. Did you not get the memo? Derrick Rose can go upstairs.
Oh, he's walked in. The steal. Right for the lead. Yeah!
Big time play. Big time play.
Giddy for the win. Go!
Oh, my God. I cannot believe this.
Improbable.
Time for a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Stacey King alongside, and Tim Kelley, armed with his master's degree from Harvard, is missing in action. We found out that he's in Portland. They got another higher education facility out in Portland?
No, I don't know what he's doing because it was news to us that he wasn't going to be here today. So I want to say he's playing hooky, America, and we don't. That doesn't sit well with me and Mark. He'll be seeing HR when he gets back here next week.
Maybe he's trying to start a new business out there. He's a big shooter now. He's got that master's degree.
Let's not make it more than what it was. Okay, he's not a doctor. Okay, if he'd got his doctor, I would have been like Dr. Tim Kelley. I would give him his props.
Yeah,
come on, man. But honestly, though, it's a great honor for him to do that. I know he put a lot of work in, short time. He had to do a lot of studying. He's a smart dude. Again, he's one of the smartest guys I know.
Hey, since we talked about it, Cisco, I know we're doing a ad lib on you here. You got those pictures of Tim in the graduation ceremony?
Oh,
he was out there all week with his family. I guess he had to finish up some schoolwork or take some finals, so he was out there all
pay off
last
the
week.
Professor to graduate on time.
And here we go. He's red as ever.
Look at him. He's as red as a backdrop. First I thought it was Invisible Man. I just saw the suit. I didn't even see his face.
Look at that.
He looks like he's been somebody added him in there. The AI just added him in there.
If you're just,
did he really go to Harvard Medical School? Did he really go?
Yeah.
We need to find out because that looks like somebody propped him up in there.
If you're just listening to the show, you weren't able to see the pictures. Tim needs a makeup artist bad there.
Yeah.
He's sweating.
A stylist. He needs a stylist. He needs someone. I know Maureen, his wife, tries, but yeah, he needs a stylist, man.
Yeah.
Get him up to date on what to be wearing.
So again, he's missing in action. We don't know. He's in Portland doing something, and hopefully he's back next week.
He loves those tight clothes, America. Those shirts are so tight you see your heartbeat. He likes those kind of things, and then the tight pants. He loves the tight pants. Every time I see him, I'm like, hey man, are you happy to see me? Because I'm like, what are you wearing here, buddy? You can see beans and franks, baby.
Our guy whispers, taking abuse for over 30 years.
He's going to take some abuse today, missing the show, and not telling us. HR, I want you to write him up, HR.
Hey, let's talk a little about what's going on in the NBA. The Indiana Pacers, this has been one of the most incredible stories I've ever seen in my lifetime. In all three of their series, they've come back from 7 or more points down in the final minute. They did it to Milwaukee in the elimination game. They did it to Cleveland in Game 2, and they did it to New York in Game 1. And I thought Stephen A. Smith was going to have a heart attack. I mean, the way the Knicks lost in Game 1 was just unbelievable.
Well, the Knicks kind of got a little medicine that they put on Boston, where they had to come back from 18 or 20 points down. And maybe they're not used to having the lead. Maybe they need to be down to finish games.
In the final minute,
Well, I tell you what. I mean, there was an incident on the bench between Karl Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby that I thought kind of was a turning point of the game. It was a little heated on the bench, and the cameras actually showed it. And I thought that was kind of turning point of the game. They had been playing well at that point, and then all of a sudden, they get into that little scrap. I think it was over a defensive assignment, not rotating over, not being where you're supposed to be, and it carried over to the bench. And they didn't come out with the same kind of fire. Jalen Brunson's tried to stand up and, calm the heads and stuff. And, the difference right now, though, Mark, is they're playing a team that does not fear them. This Indiana team is scrappy. They beat the number 1 seed. They come in with tremendous confidence. Rick Carlisle plays a lot of guys, and Tom Thibodeau plays like 6. And I thought that would be the difference in this series. I still thought New York would win the series, but with the way the series is going to be played, where, you're looking at minutes and minutes played all season long, it's got to impact the Knicks. Because you look at guys coming off the bench. I mean, Indiana has 4 or 5 guys coming off the bench. They almost all had close to 10 points. And so, Knicks play, 4 guys off the bench, but they don't play meaningful minutes. You got Robinson, who plays a little bit. You got, Cameron Payne, Deuce McBride. They played right, but he was like 26 seconds.
Yeah, that was just to prevent Brunson.
So they pretty much go only 7 deep. And this what I thought would be a very pivotal part of the series, depending on how long it went. And New York Knicks right now, and I will say this, though. I wish Tyrese Halliburton would have done the Reggie Miller choke thing in game one.
It's game one.
It's game one. It's game one. And what you did there.
It was predetermined. Reggie Miller was broadcasted.
Yes, exactly.
Was sitting over the side.
Yes.
And it was choreographed.
And this is why a lot of players don't like Tyrese Halliburton.
Right.
It has nothing to do with his ability. It has nothing to do with him as a basketball player. But he seems to always, like when they're losing, he's not talking trash or he's not being animated. But as soon as they start to win, he has to let everybody know they're winning.
Yeah.
And that's what rubs people the wrong way. And I just felt like that was kind of unnecessary. It's game one, okay? You got a long series to go here. You don't need to give New York any kind of motivation.
They're mad as hell already.
And let them stew in that, being up 20 points. Being up, under 10 with
You're up 9 with 58 seconds to go.
So let them stew into that. Let them have to worry about that. Don't give them extra motivation to come out and blow you out tonight and then turn this whole series. Because that's what Jalen Brunson needs. Jalen Brunson now needs that kind of thing. He needs to see that. He needs to feel that. And Karl Anthony Towns, that doesn't sit well with them. If I'm New York right now, forget what we did. We gave up. We did. Okay, we lost. That's on us as the players. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. But we're getting ready to bust your ass.
Mm-hmm. I think the casual fan knows a lot about Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. Siakam won a championship in Toronto. Everyone knows Miles Turner, pretty solid center. But some of these others that have come on, Aaron Nesmith hit 8 out of 9 three-pointers in game one. He hit 6 of them in the fourth quarter. He was the guy who won the game for him, not Halliburton.
Well, he had 30 points. And if you watch Indiana this year, he's not like we play him a lot. We played him 4 times this year. He's no surprise to me. Okay, the kid can play. He's a two-way player. He gets after you on defense. He's probably arguably one of their best defensive players, and he can shoot the basketball. When he's on, he's on. And he was on in the fourth quarter, and that was one of the reasons why they won. That was one of the reasons why they were able to come back, and then that gave them some confidence. But you look on down the, Siakam, 17 points, Turner, 14 points, Halliburton, 31. You had 15 from Nembhard. Nembhard
and McConnell are underrated guys.
Those two guys, I'm telling you, man, when you're talking about a championship caliber team, you need guys like Nembhard and T.J. McConnell. I've been a big T.J. McConnell's fan since he was in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? The guy goes out there, man, his whole family is in basketball, coaches and, players. So he's been around basketball his whole entire life. He knows how to play. He's a coach on the floor. He's a guy that's going to come out there and he's not going to hurt you on either side of the ball. He's not going to hurt you on the defensive side. He's going to give you every effort. He's going to pressure the guards full court. He's going to get over screens, and he's always going to know where he's supposed to be. You'll never have to worry. If you're Rick Carlisle, you don't have to worry about any of this team. They have really constructed a team of scrappy guys that have high basketball IQ, and all of them can play.
Over the Western Conference, the series shifting to Minneapolis, but the Timberwolves have a lot of work to do. I thought Oklahoma City looked a little shaky in that series against Denver, but they've looked like the Thunder we saw during the regular season in the first 2 games against the Timberwolves.
Well, we expect Oklahoma City to at least win one of those games at home. I thought Minnesota could have came in. I always say get game one. Get game one. I thought they had the lead in the first quarter. Looked like they had control of it. Then all of a sudden, they started shooting threes and couldn't make them, and you allowed Oklahoma City back into the game. And Oklahoma City's a team, Mark, that is a momentum team. Once they get some momentum, it becomes like a tsunami. They just overwhelm you.
That defense.
Yes, and their defense, I'm telling you, man, I watched specifically why I already said last night they were the best defensive team in the NBA. And to go along with their offensive output, it's going to be tough to beat them. And then, oh, Lord, who's just calling me? Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, I thought we had Lord, I'm sorry, America, I'm sorry.
Stacey's a popular guy. Forgot to put it on mute before we got in here. Maybe it's Tim trying to
No, that's my son
apologize.
calling me right now. Oh, my God. But anyway, if I was rudely interrupted by my children, and I did have my thing on mute. What the? Oh, Lord. Oh, sorry, America.
Talk about defense for Oklahoma City.
But watching them play, I specifically wanted to watch them defensively against Minnesota because Minnesota can present a lot of problems with their wing players. McDaniel. You look at Edwards.
You got Randall bottled up.
Randall. Well, you know what? This is the Randall. This is what really bothered me about Randall. Okay, Randall now looks like the Knicks Randall.
Mm-hmm.
He's one-dimensional. He's not doing the little things that's going to help the team win, like rebounding and defense when his shot's not falling, and he just kind of floats around out there. Anthony Edwards needs guys to step up. I thought Rudy Gobert. Where's the Rudy Gobert that showed up for the Lakers?
He had one good game.
Exactly, one good game. I'll tell you what, man. If if you're not going to bring anything offensively at 7'3", man, at least bring it on the defensive end. They were in the zone last night, and our good guy, Alex Caruso, who plays power forward at 6'2", 6'3", killed Rudy Gobert in that zone.
Yeah.
He went in the middle of that zone because the perimeter players had it locked out. But where they got Minnesota was you saw Caruso flashing in the pocket.
Wide open from 8 feet.
And Rudy Gobert's reaction is about as fast as a 6-year-old boxer, a retired boxer. His reaction is so slow. It's like, dude, are you serious? Like, get up, you're 7'3", contest, get a hand up, make him shoot over an extended hand. I was so pissed watching that yesterday. I'm like, man, come on, man. If you ain't gonna score for us, okay, you gotta give us something else. You're supposed to be defensive player, 5-time defensive player of the year. Where's he at? Where's the intimidation rim protector that we need? If we're gonna go zone, all you have to do is cover from one block to the middle. That's all you gotta do. Okay, we don't need you. If you're running a 2-3 zone, the center is the middle guy, okay? And all you have to do is stay out of illegal defenses. As long as there's a player in your area, you have a little box, America, that center has to go from, maybe from the top to the bottom corner and then back to the middle. You ain't got to go very far. But really, it's 2 steps. 2 steps up, 2 steps back, 2 steps to the side. It's not hard. This dude did not make any steps. He stayed in the same spot every time. So when the ball came to the mid-post area where he's supposed to be there, Caruso's his guy, technically. Right. So he lets Caruso flash because in their mind, Caruso's not a threat. Oh, he's not a threat. Let him shoot. Yeah, let him shoot from the three-point line. Yeah. Don't let him shoot from within, 15 feet. He's deadly, and he was killing him in that zone, dude. Killing him. It's terrible.
Yeah, nice ceremony before Game 2 in Oklahoma City. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander presented with the MVP trophy, and all his teammates came out to congratulate him. Really nice scene there in Oklahoma City, and some people thought it'd be closer. He won that kind of a landslide over Jokic, and I think it's because he led the league in scoring. They had the best record in the NBA. It was an easy choice for the writers, but I thought it'd be a little bit closer to one.
Well, my question would have been, what if Denver wins that series?
Yeah,
do you give
the votes are already in?
Yeah. But you never know. You never know with TV ratings. You never know. We don't know that the votes are in. Okay, but the people who vote, they know. But they could either say, if Jokic was playing, we're gonna give Jokic the finals now since they're in the finals and Oklahoma City's not. But what I will say about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, remarkable player. Remarkable player.
Gets anywhere he wants to go.
You know what? And he plays both ways. He's not a liability defensively. He gets steals. He's in passing lanes. He fits perfectly in what they do defensively. So you can't just say this guy's like James Harden. He's an offensive-minded guy, and he gets 30 points and he doesn't do anything else. He plays both ways. The only thing I say the only knock against him that I would say is he gets a lot of BS calls, man. He gets a lot of calls.
There's been a lot of talk about
especially in the playoff series. You can't touch him. And it's like he's untouchable. And he initiates a lot of the contact. Jalen Brunson's also like that. They come in and they boulder their way into you. I watched him specifically on a couple plays last night where he flashed to the outside, and then once he gets you on the hip, what he does is he gets you on the hip and then he bangs into you, and then he gets separation jumping away from you, and then your momentum coming back will hit him, and it'll be a foul. And it's like he knows it's coming, so he just gets himself ready to shoot. But tremendous player and a really nice kid because, you listen to his speech and he gave each one of his teammates a Rolex watch. And, them watches probably over $100,000 each. He gave some really nice – I was looking at some watches. Those were really nice watches. Those wasn't no cheap ones, buy one, get 3 free. Those were at least $100,000 each. And for him to go that and show his teammates love like that, that's why he's so loved in Oklahoma City. That's why the team loves him. That's a very close-knit team. When you talk about championship teams, that guys are there to say. I was telling my son last night, Williams, the second leading scorer on that team, would be a number 1 guy on anybody else's team. On that team, he's number 2 behind Shai Gilgeous. But that doesn't diminish what he brings to that team. Solid 2-way player. But if you put, Williams on another team, that kid, you're looking at that kid probably averaging 24 points a night and being a superstar in this league. But he plays number 2. They all play their role. They all get along. There's no egos there. When they do an interview, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, and it's so refreshing to see. Yeah, when you see them do an interview, the whole team is there. Yeah. No one's acting crazy. No one's saying inappropriate things. They're having fun with the reporter. They're having fun with the player who's being introduced. And there's so much genuine love there. That's why I say Oklahoma City is built for the long haul. And you got to remember, too, their players are under 25. It's
and
not
they got
like
a million draft picks to add.
They got
to
a
it.
million draft picks, and they could trade certain players to even get better. Their core group right now is like 25 or younger, and I thought they were built too early. I thought this year was too early for them because they haven't had heartbreak. They had heartbreak last year going into the playoffs. They were a higher seed and they got beat.
Lost to Dallas.
Okay, lost to Dallas. So I said, okay, that was their one. They need one more. I think
they're ready. I think they're going to win it all.
I think they're going to win it all.
And you think about that trade that brought in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They sent Paul George to the Clippers. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, who at that point was still a decent player, and 5 first-round draft picks. 5.
This is why you say Dallas should, Nico Harrison should be slapped with Polish sausages, okay? Because raw.
That's pretty cruel punishment.
Raw Polish sausages, okay? So this is why I say, if you got all that with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Paul George trade, what the hell would you have gotten if you put Luke out there?
Yeah.
Top 5 player,
right?
Perennial first team All-NBA. You could have gotten 10 or more draft picks.
He completely bungled that.
You could have got a vault full of first round. Matter of fact, Oklahoma City would have said, okay, you can have everybody but Shai, and we'll give you 10 first round picks for Luka.
Yeah, they had him too.
They had him, and they would have. You don't tell me they won't pull that. They wouldn't have pulled that trigger.
Absolutely, yeah.
And all you get to take 2 of their players on the team, whoever you wanted, plus 10 first round picks.
Yeah.
You tell me they wouldn't have made that deal?
They have enough of them, yeah. A team that's got that kind of a stockpile.
Plus, he's Oklahoma City killer.
Yeah.
You want the guy who kills you every year on your team,
yeah.
And he's young, 25 years old, 26.
I tell you what, I'm really liking though is that big man tandem, Holmgren and Hartenstein. They've been really effective.
I was concerned with it at first. I was concerned with it because of the fact that there's not a lot of physicality as far as Chet Holmgren is small frame, and I thought if they went up against Jokic would be the one center they'd have a problem with. Just the size and the strength of him. And they did have problems with him. Jokic just didn't have help. Denver didn't address the bench issue, and it came back to bite him in the butt. And then also, I still believe firing Mike Malone was a huge mistake going into the playoffs. That's not a time you fire a championship coach. If you want to fire him at the end of the season. He had to do something so bad, they had to fire him right there on the spot. So, but Oklahoma City, Hartenstein, I've always liked him. I liked him when he was in New York.
He's been great.
I thought he was an underrated player everywhere he's been. The guy can run the floor. He's tough. He shoots. He can rebound. And he knows his role. Set screens, roll to the basket. And he's got that little push shot that we always tell you, it's called teardrops for guards. When guards get to the basket and they're getting ready to go up against a 7-footer, they hit that little teardrop over. For a 6'11", 7-foot dude, he can do that shot.
And he can rebound in traffic. A lot of guys can get a rebound when nobody's around him. He goes up in the middle of guys.
And Mark, he has defensive IQ. Both him and Chet Holmgren know where to be at all times, where the rotations are. They're both rim protectors. Chet is skinny, but he'll block some shots. He'll come up there and he'll put his body on the line and block some shots. So their 2 young bigs, man, are playing extremely, extremely well for them. And seeing Chet Holmgren coming back from that fractured hip, you didn't know how he was going to play coming into the second half, but they brought him along slowly, got his minutes up, got his conditioning up, and now he's paying big dividends.
We'll talk a little bit more about the Bulls and some other NBA stuff later in the show, but coming up next, we've got a very special treat for you. Former Bull, former NBA Rookie of the Year, Michael Carter-Williams is going to join us. He's going to get into the ring for an exhibition boxing match. That's coming up next on Gimme the Hot Sauce. We welcome you back to the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. It is now our privilege to welcome in our special guest for this week. He is the former NBA Rookie of the Year, Michael Carter-Williams. He played 1 season here in Chicago with the Bulls, had a nice NBA career. Now he's involved in broadcasting. He's also going to be involved in a boxing match coming up. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, Michael, you had a nice career. You retired at a very young age. When you reflect back, what's some of the highlights that stand out for you?
Oh, man. I mean, just the things that basketball has brought to me in general, traveling the world, traveling the country, meeting, developing new friendships with people, obviously, winning Rookie of the Year, just being in, competing against some of the best players in the world. I wanted to play in the NBA since I was 5 years old. So, living out my dream, doing that, it was a blessing to me, and I had so much fun doing it.
Talk a little bit about the early days at Syracuse, playing for Hall of Fame coach Jim Boeheim. What was your experience like playing for him in that damn 2-3 zone. Man, I tell you what, boy, if I was a coach in the NBA, I would go hire Jim Boeheim to teach me how to run a 2-3 zone the proper way, boy. That zone was a killer in college.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, people really don't know like the different tactics that we used in that 2-3 zone, right? People, just assume like we just stood there and didn't play no defense, but like it was sometimes I find it harder to play in the zone than man to man because it was harder to guard the pick and rolls in the zone because you have no big guy to kind of hedge for you. So he always used to kill us, man. If we got hit by screens, he would, he would lay it on us. So, yeah, no, I mean, it was great playing for Coach Boeheim. Like there was some really special times, like our Final Four run. It was with my teammates, we were all locked in with each other. Just so many great moments. Winning games, going back to school, getting so much love. Like it was all of it was just so special to me, and it was times that I'll never forget.
Now you went against the Bulls in the playoffs, and then you came to join them. Were you in that series where Giannis got in that scuffle with Mike Dunleavy along the sideline? Was that the series?
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened? What was your perspective on that?
Well, first, Dunleavy, I went up for a layup and he punched me in the face.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
You can see it clearly. Like and he shifted some of my teeth, so I had to go in the back. I had to get my teeth pushed back in, and then came back in the game, and then he threw another cheap. And I told Giannis, I was like, "Yo, this mother effer hit me." I saw it on the replay, and I was like, "I'm getting him back." Like, and so then he cheap shotted Giannis like a few plays later. So he was like, you just cheap shotted my teammate, then you just cheap shotted me. So then he ran down, and that's when he, and that was crazy because I was thinking the same thing, but like I was like, like he just like beat me to it. If you watch the play, I'm literally standing right there next to Giannis because I was like, I saw him get cheap shotted. So I mean, but it was veteran tactics, right? Like it was a physical game. He was being a little cheap, but we were closing in on the series. I think we had won 2 in a row. It was game 6, right? So the series was 3-2 and they were up 3-0 and we won 2 in a row. And they they had to take us off our rhythm. I just had a really good game. I think I had like 25 and 12 and 8 or something. And so like they were like, you got to make the momentum. That was a big momentum changer for the game. And then they blew us out.
That was before Giannis was Giannis. That was only the second or third year in the league.
It's like, talk about Giannis at that stage of his career. We knew like I knew from the very first, when they drafted him, I thought he would be a guy that would be a big part of him and Jabari. I thought those two guys, drafting those two guys, those are going to be a pillar for a long, long time. And they were hyping Jabari up more than Giannis at that point.
He was their go-to guy.
And I remember we played him. It was either a preseason game or a regular season game. He missed a ride or something. He had to run all the way from his apartment to the arena, and he ran all the way. It's like his first year. He was late, and he missed his ride, overslept or something, and he ran from his apartment all the way to the arena. And that's when I knew. I was like, dude, this dude is something special, dude. Who does that? I mean, call somebody to come get you. But talk a little bit about early Giannis, and did you see something in Giannis at that early stage in that playoff series, or when you practiced with him, that you thought he would be what he is today?
Yeah, like you'd see different moments in practice where you're like, whoa, like when he starts doing that more consistently, it's he's taking over the league. So like for me, it was like each month, like you would see see those moments more and more and more. In the summertime, you'd see him get stronger and you'd see him, learn new moves and, do certain things. And then, at one point, he did become consistent with those things, and then he took over the league, right? So we knew the talent, we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time.
Hey, tell us the story behind the number 1 in Chicago. When you first came here, you were issued number 1. I don't know if you asked for it or they just gave it to you. And then there was all this this media crap about, nobody can wear that number. And then you relented and changed. Tell us the story behind all that.
So when I was in Philly, I was number 1, right? Then I went to Milwaukee and I couldn't be 1, and I wanted to go back. And so when they asked me, like, I didn't even think twice about it. Like, I totally forgot D Rose was 1. Like, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, is 1 available? They were like, yeah. And I was like, cool. So I'll take 1. So then after it was announced that I took 1, there was like, all the Chicago fans were like, how could you do that? That number is sacred. That's D Rose's number. Like this and that. Like, who do you think you are? And I was like, whoa. I was like, I'm coming into a new team. I want the fans to like me. Like, I don't want no animosity coming in. Give me 78. I don't just don't let me. I'm not wearing one. That's all I know.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was. I remember that.
But that was the Bulls' mistake. I mean, they should never have issued, former MVP,
been like,
beloved in Chicago. They just should have said, "Hey, one's unavailable."
Right, and again, like I wouldn't even. I didn't even think twice about it when they asked me.
Well, I like to say, like, you kind of ushered in, the NBA kind of went to the big guards. You coming in at 6'6", coming from Syracuse, long, athletic, long wingspan, could defend. I always thought you gave us problems. I thought in that Milwaukee series, I was like, Jesus, man, this kid is killing us with his length. He was giving D Rose and everybody problems. I was like, man. So talk a little bit about, have you watched the game now and you see how the game has evolved? What do you think the changes have been besides the 3-point line? What, from when you first came into the league to where it is now?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, like you said, the three ball is probably the biggest thing. I mean, I don't know. There's always been ISO basketball that happens. I know there's a lot of. I think that when I first came in the league, there was more of this guy, like James Harden. If he would have been more like, he was at that time, he was more a traditional two guard, right? Like he wasn't playing the one, right? So I think now they're like, whoever's the best player on the team is kind of playing the one now, right? Like Luka's got the ball in his hands. He's bringing up the ball, right? Like James Harden's almost a one now, right? Like back then there was more solidified positions. Like the only one who would do that would be like LeBron in like late game situations. But even when he was playing, right? Like he was a legit 3-man. Right now it's more of, who's ever the best players on our team, we want the ball. We want him bringing up the ball, kind of running the offense. I think I'd probably say that's the biggest difference. But the three ball is definitely the biggest thing.
Now, what about defensively? Because, you were a good on-ball defensive player, and you could switch if you needed to switch to 2s and 3s. When you look defensively, I look at the defense today as like just being so horrible because of all the switching, and, you hear these coaches say the reason why we switch a lot is because of the 3-point shot. Well, I look at it switching being you're constantly putting yourself as mismatches all over the floor, and then you have your teams the guys who are not switching running in rotations, kind of like chickens with their head cut off, chasing the ball, and you never are able to catch it because there's always somebody wide open because someone that wasn't able to get back out to maybe the third pass or the fourth pass. Talk a little bit about that.
I think it's more of like, for example, like when we were in Milwaukee, like I could have been the smallest guy in the lineup when I was 6'6", right? So we could do a lot of switching and we were successful with it. But like, it's almost like, how Golden State was the first team to really, start shooting all these threes, right? And then it's a copycat league. Even if the dynamic of your team isn't that, teams still go to that. And I think similarly to the switching, right? Like not everybody is built to switch 1 through 4 or 1 through 5. But I think since it's a trend in the league, I think people still try to do that. And I hear people do say, yeah, the switching does help defend the 3, but I think that teams really need to get good at mixing it up, like down the stretch. Like for example, like if Indiana switched everything, I mean, if the New York Knicks switched everything against Indiana in the last 3 minutes and just played the 3-point line, switch up, play the 3-point line, right? Then they're not going to hit 8 threes in 2 minutes, right? They might get some layups, but like there needs to be a better balance of when you're going to switch and when you're going to hedge or show or, whatever the case may be.
Obviously, you were an outstanding defender. You had to be matched up against some of the best guards in the NBA. Who were tougher for you to guard? A guy that wanted to be physical and maybe try to back you into the paint, or maybe a guy like Steph Curry who was always on the move and you had to negotiate around screens all the time.
I think the guys who use the most screens are the hardest guys to guard because like you got to constantly go through them every single every possession. You got to work on you're getting hit sometimes. Guys will get set illegal screens on you. The guys that try to bully in the post, I'm usually if not the same size or bigger than people, that really never gave me that many issues. But definitely the guys that use screens a lot. And by the time the third and fourth quarter comes, you're like, damn, I'm getting hit with another screen. Like maybe one time your teammate didn't call the screen out. Now you're pissed at him. Like, so that's definitely the harder thing.
You think Steph has entered the conversation for top 10 all-time players?
That's a good question, man. I want to say yes. I just feel like I might leave somebody crazy
Right.
off my
Yeah.
top 10 list, but I want to say yeah, like top 10, top 15. I think he's earned that right.
Here's a better question. Rank MJ, LeBron, and Kobe. Those three. Who's
Kobe's
your number
three.
one, number two, and number three?
Yeah, Kobe's three. Um, and I'm this depends what month it is for me because I flip flop back and forth. Um, but I do think that man, it's so hard, man. If I had to choose, I'd probably say MJ one and Braun two, and but I say that because if you take MJ's body of work and what he did, I think he was more efficient with that body of work. I know LeBron's got the scoring, he's got the longevity, he's got championships with three different teams, but like I just think MJ has the better career, and like he took 2 years off. Like I don't know if you imagine he didn't take the 2 years, like I just think that he was more efficient in his winnings than LeBron was.
Would you see the comments from David Falk the other day where he said that if Michael had done what LeBron did and teamed up with two superstars and changed teams willy-nilly, that he could have won 15 championships? That was his agent, David Falk.
Yeah. No, yeah. David Fox, Syracuse guy too. So yeah,
Yep.
I know him well. Yeah, I don't know, maybe, but I don't think. Here's the thing about that though. I don't think that MJ had to.
Right.
No.
He didn't need to leave. Like there could be a case to be made that LeBron had to leave. Like imagine he didn't, and he only has one championship, two championships right now. Like people be saying like he only has this many championships. Right? If you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I don't know, right? Like Steph doesn't need to leave because he's
Mhm.
had Clay and he's had Draymond and he's had all these other guys that, he doesn't need to leave to go. Yeah, he had great things built around him.
That's why I say the organizations have to take responsibility like that, because same thing with Jokic. You lose a Bruce Brown, you lose KYP, you lose Jeff Green, and you never really replace those guys. They're from that championship team, and you had a couple of years to do it. And then you saw where it kind of bit them in the ass against the Oklahoma City Thunder series, where they didn't have enough bench production to be able to compete against Oklahoma City. And that's why I say the organizations have to take a little bit more accountability, because when you look at a guy like Jokic, what's his window? He doesn't have another 10 years to play. He's got probably 5 to 6 really good years left in him, because he looked like he was slowing down in this series against Oklahoma City because he has to do so much. He was even coaching on the sideline. So I think the organizations have to take responsibility. When you got a guy like LeBron and you think he's a generational talent, it's up to you to put the players around him that's going to make him to utilize all his gifts. Here in MJ, I was here. The first 7 years, I wasn't here when MJ was tearing up the league scoring-wise. But I was here when the championship teams were built. And they went out, Jerry Krause, who doesn't get a lot of credit for what he did with that team, he put the players that were going to, make Michael's skill level even go higher, guys with high basketball IQ, and then get him a coach that he would be able to respect, get him a coach that would hold him accountable and say, hey, look, this guy was open, hit him, and not be like, oh, Michael, it's okay, you'll get him next time. And that's why I think organizations have to take a little bit more accountability when they have those kind of players on their team.
I agree 100%.
Hey, we mentioned that you retired at a young age from the NBA, but a lot of players, they retire and they're not sure what they want to do next. I see that you're involved in a variety of different business enterprises. Now you're going to step into the boxing ring. You're doing broadcasting. You have not let the life pass you by after basketball. How are you managing all these different interests?
I like to stay busy. I like to stay busy. I have a bunch of interests. My whole life has been kind of focused on basketball. So I got my hands in a few different buckets, just trying to figure out, what I really like and what I want to continue to do. I like working on projects. I like, you know, I just like doing stuff all the time. So yeah, no, I just want to keep continuing to build myself, build my my resume, be an entrepreneur, do different things that I've always wanted to do. Like I've always wanted to take a charity fight and train and box and do those type of things. So I'm doing those things now. I got 2 kids, so I'm chasing them around, got them in sports. So I'm just trying to live a happy life. That's all I'm trying to do.
That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the boxing because listen, as athletes, we're all fans of UFC. We're all fans of boxing. We watch it all the time. You know, I've never been interested to go into the boxing ring myself. But knowing that you're doing it, what made you decide that, hey, you know what? I'm a nice looking guy. I want to go out there and get my eyes swollen, my cheek busted up. What made you want to get out there and do that?
You know, I think two things. One, I've always, like I said, I've always been a fan. I've always been a fan of boxing. I've been a huge fan of MMA, UFC. I've been to a ton of fights. I've trained in the off season. I've done some, just for conditioning for basketball. So then, when I retired, I didn't really have. It wasn't like as soon as I retire, I'm going to fight kind of thing. It was just kind of happened that way. One of my friends, his name is Dan Anyabunum. We went to college together. He told me he was on the charity card and he was like, you should train and do it. And I was like, all right. So it's a good outlet for me. I get in that mode where I'm not thinking about nothing, just sport. You know what I mean? I'm just reacting. I'm competing. I'm sparring with guys. Like I'm just having a good time. Yeah, sometimes it hurts, but it's part of the game. But it scratches that itch for me. When I'm watching basketball, I'm like, dang, I wish I could go out there, but it's hard. I've had tons of injuries. I've had, ended my career on 2 ankle surgeries. I had reconstructive surgery on my ankle. So like the jumping, the running, the pounding, it's a lot for me, even if I just go, play wherever, with some of the guys in the off season. Right. So it's tough for me to do. So I wanted to find something that was, not so harsh on my knees and ankles. And that was boxing for me.
Do you have any kind of background whatsoever? Do you like box in the boys club growing up or so you just going in there raw as an athlete?
I was an athlete.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now.
Training like on the mitts, like in between seasons when I was playing, but nothing crazy.
See, the goal right now, MC Dub, the goal right now is to get you prepared for the Jake Paul fight. We got to get you out there, get your name out there. You got to look dominant in these charity fights so that we can redeem as NBA players, NBA fraternity. And I love my little man Nate. That's my guy. But we got to redeem our showing in that boxing ring because listen, we took a hit there, bro. We took a hit. We had Nate on the show. Nate was on this show. Nate didn't want to talk about it. We didn't harp on it or anything. So I want you to continue to get better and better and get more comfortable in the ring. And then we're going to challenge Jake Paul and we're going to knock him out and we're going to redeem ourselves.
Okay. That sounds
the pressure's on you.
He sounds more like Don King than Stacey King.
Right.
No, if you was a basketball player, if you was an NBA player and you played in this league and saw what happened, to Nate, that I wanted to get in the ring. I was like so mad. I was like, no, he can't do my boy Nate like that. No.
Yeah, we had D Will.
He won. But he won't fight. He won't fight. Jake Paul won't fight. Kendall Gill boxes. He won't fight some of these guys. He won't fight any of these guys because he knows that these guys, can throw a little bit. And there's some football players that are pretty good. Le'Veon Bell, from Michigan State to play with the Steelers. He's a really good boxer. He knocked out my boy Adrian Peterson, my former Sooner. I was like, oh baby.
I will tell you this though. Jake has been boxing for a little while now, and he's gotten a lot better. Skills. Yeah. Like he's got a full-time team, full-time trainer.
I'll give it to him. He has improved.
He picks his opponents sometimes, but you could tell that he puts in
the work. He puts in the work. You can't discredit what he's doing.
He's beating they're older dudes, but he's beating Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz can throw.
Yeah. My biggest thing, the Tyson fight, it was almost like they drugged Mike Tyson. Come on, man. If you saw Mike Tyson leading up to that fight, the videos of him training, and he hit his trainer in the face, and I thought he was going to have to call an ambulance. I'm like, oh, he's going to kill Jake Paul. Man, Mike Tyson didn't look nothing like what we saw in the videos going up to that fight. It looked like he was holding back and like he didn't want to hurt Jake Paul. Because there was one time he hit Jake Paul, and Jake Paul was like, you thought Jake Paul's soul was gone. And then Mike Tyson had a realization moment like, oh, I'm not supposed to win this. And he held back. And that's my only thing, man. Like, I want to see him go. I'm not discrediting what he does, but I want to see him actually go in there and say, if you beat me, you beat me. Like the Fury kid. He couldn't tell Fury to take a dive. The Furies ain't taking no dives. So you going to fight me? You want to fight a boxer? We're going to fight a boxer. We're going to fight. And Fury really showed he was a better fighter that night.
Yeah, listen, I'm interested to see. I know he's fighting Chavez. I know Chavez hasn't fought in a little while, but if Chavez comes in shape, Chavez Jr., if he comes in shape, it could be a pretty good fight. And then if Jake wins that, right, he's getting closer and closer to fighting that, like,
Mhm.
okay, he's fighting a real boxer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's get the details out for your fights coming up May 29th at Broad Street Brawl in New York. It's a 2-minute rounds against Sam Khatib, and it's going to help raise funds for Big Vision Community. Talk about the charity component of it.
Yeah, and it's Sam Khatib. I just want to make sure we get
Okay.
Sam Khatib.
it's with a B at the end. So I just want that Khatib went around, and I'm just trying to correct it and make sure we give
Okay.
give him. But yeah, it's a charity event. It's for it's for drug and alcohol victims, and we're raising money, and it's been great. It's been awesome training, seeing the other guys train as well, seeing my best friend Dan training. It should be a good show, and we all had to raise some money. I raised a good amount of money as well, so people were very generous, and I appreciate everyone who did donate to the cause. So it's fun. It's interesting. I'm interested to see how it's run, how it works, because I would love to do something like this myself.
That's cool. I got so we got to ask some Bulls questions, man. We went all the way around the Bulls question. Okay, so how was your time here in Chicago? And then also you were here during some turbulent times, behind the scenes and things that were going on. There was a fraction in the team, guys were basically, this guy's over here, this guy's over here. Talk a little bit about your time here and what you experienced while you was here.
Yeah, my time here. I mean, it started rough, right? Like I was traded here after training camp, the last day of preseason games.
Wow.
So like I was traded here late. Like I was late to the system. I didn't get no training camp. I didn't get anything. So I was already behind. And then when I got here, yeah, man, it was a little bit of a whirlwind. Like I don't get me wrong, like the team ourselves, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of great moments. But there was a lot of drama that year. There was a lot of drama that year, but we ended up pulling it together at the end, making the playoffs. If Rondo doesn't get hurt, right, we may beat the Celtics. Like
Yeah.
we created some good things through some, havoc times. Coach Hoiberg was a new coach. He was just getting his feet wet. That's a lot to put on a new coach with those type of guys in the locker room. I don't care if you're anybody. So it was tough, but like I said, we turned it into, making the playoffs.
I remember that Boston series, and I honestly thought if Rondo doesn't get hurt, you guys upset the Celtics in that series. I thought you guys dominated the first two games. I thought Rondo was just on a different level. Like the way
Oh,
he
he was
just
the key. He was the key for us to win that series.
yeah,
He
and
was the key.
when he
He had
went
it
out,
all.
it
He
wasn't
had
the
it all
same.
mapped out in practice, everything. Like they had it down. Him, D Wade, and Jimmy, they were on the same page. Like it was cool to see.
How was your time with D Wade when he first came in? Because you get an aging star, superstar player comes into his hometown team. That a lot of things could happen. Of course, him and Jimmy have a history together, and then you've got all these strong personalities in the locker room. And again, as you said, Fred Hoiberg being a young coach, having to manage those egos and those strong personalities. Talk a little bit about Dwayne Wade coming in that year.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool, right? Because like obviously, he's a Hall of Fame guy. You get that, urge to, learn from somebody like that. And he taught us a lot of things on the floor. Um, but then also I think as just a whole, right? We talked about, Coach Horberg was young. We had a lot of personalities on the team. We had young guys. We had D Wade, who's coming from Miami. Now he's transitioning to Chicago. Like it's his first time in a new scene, a new area. Like how is he adjusting to that? And I just don't think our communication was right as a group, right? Like there was times where we were just not on the same page, right? Like we had a bunch of guys that didn't understand, like, some of the older guys, like D Wade, he couldn't at that time, he couldn't go every single day in practice, right? Like that's not a nobody looking back at it, none of us should have expected that because of the where he was in his career. But then again, it was like we would go in the games and we weren't getting him the ball in the spots that he would want to. But then we'd be like, well, we don't have those reps in practice. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
just figuring out all that took a little while, and figuring out the roles on our team took a little while. But it was a cool learning experience, right? Like at the end of the day, I got to play with D Wade, Jimmy, Rondo, right, and learn things from each of them. Saw Jimmy's work ethic, saw D Wade, every single day working on his body and doing the things that he wanted to do to play a long career. I saw Rondo and how attached he was in the film room and doing and always, he wouldn't question, Hoiberg, but he would question him in a way to be like, why are we doing that? I want to understand why. So like, just in case we need to make an adjustment, we can do that, right? He was always that guy to be like, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? And it wasn't like a disrespectful way. It was just like his mind is moving and thinking about, different steps in the game because he's so smart out there and he watches so much film. So it's almost like he's another coach out there. And I can't wait to see him, get a head coach.
Yeah, that's one of the things I said about him when he was here, and that I noticed as well was that he's a student of the game. Not only did he win championships, with the Boston Celtics. You hear so many stories. You hear KG talk about him, how smart he was even as a young player, and sitting there talking to him many, many times. I'm just like, man, this guy either going to be a front office guy or he's going to be a head coach. And I saw the way he worked with the younger players, Bobby Portis and those guys. He would go to their G League games. He would constantly be talking to them and letting them know, like, this is what you got to do. I thought that was really impressive. And now you see him, I think he'll be an excellent coach if he gets an opportunity.
100%. Yeah, no, he's definitely, when it comes to studying, when it comes to seeing things on the floor, when it comes to, noticing what would work and at what time it will work, he's a savant at that.
And then there was that flashpoint in that season where Jimmy and Dwayne got up in front of the media after a game and criticized all the young guys for not working hard enough, not wanting to win enough. And then Rondo blasted him on social media the next day. How did that all get resolved to the point where you guys were able to go into the playoffs and show so well against the Celtics?
Yeah, I mean, again, right? We all sat in a room after that came out, and we all just had an open discussion. And D Wade got to say his piece, Jimmy got to say his piece, Rondo got to say his piece. Anybody, and the floor was open to anybody who had something to say. So we got a lot out at that time, and I think that was great for us. So at least we're on the same page about things. And I don't think it was Jimmy and D Wade's intent to out the team, even though it came across as that. I think it was they were trying to motivate us in a way, to be better. And it came out across as like, we're not working hard enough. Or I think some of the things that they said might have been directed at, one or two people. And since they didn't address the names, it kind of sounded like the whole team.
Yeah.
So, and then it's different, right? It's different. People have different ways, right? D Wade and Jimmy thought that would motivate the team. Rondo was like, no, like I'm more of an old school guy. Like if you're going to address something, you come here and address the team. You don't say shit in the media.
Yeah.
So, it was just a clash of heads at the time, and we all got to talk. We all got to speak. And then from then on, you could start to see the boat, kind of sail a little bit, right? It wasn't so rocky. Like, when it came down to winning, it was like, okay, we really need to everybody put their hats on and be like, how do we fix this and how do we move forward?
Yeah, I thought that was like in any locker room, any pro locker. You've been in a few locker rooms. I think the best way to handle things, and we always handle things on our championship teams within. We police ourselves. Everything we say stays in this room. You don't want to, get out and say something bad about a teammate or guys are not doing something. I mean, there's been many times as young players when a veteran player gets on you. Michael Jordan got on me and BJ, our rookie year. He didn't go to the media and say that, Stacey and BJ got to do, our younger players got to do this. He directed to you in your face, and you can respect a person that way. And then that's how you learn as a younger player going up to be a veteran, how to handle things, within instead of going outside and then, putting a teammate on blast, which causes a lot of problems.
No, I agree. I completely agree with you, and I think that was the main point of Rondo at that time. But again, I think in D Wade and Jimmy's defense, it wasn't to, they had said it wasn't to out anybody. It was just to kind of motivate, and it did come out the wrong way. So, I mean, life that happens. It is what it is. We, like I said, we had the conversation where everybody was able to move past it.
Hey, Michael, we appreciate all your time this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Good luck in the boxing match coming up on May 29th. Continued success with your broadcasting career. I know you're working at ESPN, doing a lot of college basketball for them, and it was great catching up with you, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Win those fights, baby. We're going to get that Jake Paul fight redemption. It's going to call redemption, baby. I'll promote it. Stacey King, not Don King, baby.
Michael Carter Williams, our guest on Give Me the Hot Sauce. We're coming back a little bit more after a quick timeout. Great catching up with Michael Carter Williams, really well-spoken guy, and it's funny when you reflect on that one season, all the things that happened when he was wearing the Bulls uniform.
I'll tell you what, I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, there was a division in the locker room.
Oh, yeah.
You know, older players versus the younger players. Rondo was with the younger players. And
Denzel Valentine was a rookie. He was the one who was, I
yes.
think, taking some of that flack.
Yeah, he was taking a lot of flack. And so, and then Bobby Portis didn't like it, and they addressed it. The veterans should be veterans and lead by example. You know, they don't practice or whatever. So there was a big mess in the locker room. I thought Rondo was the leader of that group. He was the veteran that all the players looked up to. And if you ever hear any locker room Rondo's been part of, even when he was a young player with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, they always talk about his leadership skills. You know, as a young player, he took control of the locker room. You know, he was a coach on the floor. And it has not changed throughout his career. Everywhere he's been, you don't hear a bad thing said about Rondo. You know, now I remember there was a point when they were in San Antonio where he threw a towel in.
Yeah, he wasn't playing much for a while.
He wasn't playing much, and then he took a little exception to what assistant coach said to him, and he threw the towel in his face, and that was kind of out of character for him. And he apologized.
That was our guy Jim Boylan.
Jim Boylan threw a towel in his face, and you know he felt bad about that. You know, he let his emotions get involved, but he handled like a man. You know, and took responsibility, but. In that playoff series against Boston, no one gave the Bulls a chance to win that series. And he came in there, man, and just dismantled. It's almost like he knew everything that they were going to do.
Yeah.
You know, he knew every play. He knew what every counter to a play was if you stopped it. And then he orchestrated offensively, you know, the Bulls, they were getting shots that they weren't getting before. You know, easy shots. He was, giving Jimmy shots where he could get. He was getting to the basket at will. It was just a totally different team. And then when he went out with that, the hurt, I think it was his shoulder or was his arm?
No, he broke his thumb.
He broke his thumb.
Yeah.
When he went out, that was it. That was it.
Yeah, and it was Isaiah Cannon playing point guard. It was tough to try to get. I don't think they won another game in that series.
No.
So Boston won 4 straight after.
4 straight.
The Bulls won 2 in a row in Boston. You know, the whole Dwayne Wade phenomenon. Guy who was a star at Oaklawn Richards High School, went to Marquette, had that great Midwest background, and then went down to play in Miami. People thought that maybe he would come here as a free agent in 2010 with LeBron, which would have been the ultimate super team with D Rose and Noah and Dang and Taj. That would have been fun to watch. But that didn't happen. Then he came near the end of his career, and you could see visibly he was slowing down. Like Michael Carter Williams mentioned, he couldn't practice that much, and he'd miss some games because they were resting his knees and things like that. And then remember, after that season, he opted into his contract because he had a big guarantee coming. And then the Bulls let him go because they decided they were going to rebuild. They traded Gimme. That was a flashpoint in the franchise history. Well,
I mean, that was a really tough time during that time because, you bring Dwayne Wade back, you bring him a, Chicago kid back home,
mm-hmm.
You bring in a legend, a future Hall of Famer to end his career, in his hometown. And the story and everything was going great. The premise was there, it just didn't work out the way the team planned it, didn't work out the way Dwayne Wade planned it. And I think when he got here, he was a shell of himself. You couldn't expect D Wade to play like he did in Miami.
Right.
You couldn't expect him to play 40 minutes a night and be the Flash. He just wasn't that player. He was dealing with a lot of injuries at that time. He had this, practice. He couldn't practice all the time. And you can't expect a veteran player like that to practice every day. We're talking about practice. Okay. Practice. We talk about practice. But I think when Jimmy got here, I think what they wanted him to do was basically be a leader to show Jimmy how to lead. Jimmy at that point wasn't a leader. He didn't know how to lead. He just led by, I'm going to outwork everybody, you can outwork everybody, but you also, there's other aspects of being a leader too, making sure you're where you're supposed to be on time, make sure you're doing everything you can. If I'm going to lead by example, I got to make sure I'm doing everything the coaches want me to do. So then the younger players are following suit. And I think there was a little disconnect during that. That was a time where, Jimmy at that time started to, his wings started to spread a little bit, and he wanted to do his own
D-Rose
thing.
was gone, yeah.
Yeah, D-Rose was gone, Joakim, Luol Deng. So it was his team. And you had a young coach in Fred Hoiberg who maybe wasn't experienced enough to deal with that kind of ego. And I think he personally relied on D Wade to be the guy to kind of corral Jimmy and show him how to be a leader. At that time, bridges were starting to be burned. Jimmy was not happy with, whatever the situation was. He wasn't happy here. And he started kind of alienate himself away from the team. And that's where the division of the team started. It was that, Jimmy wanted to do his own thing. Young players still over here. I got my boy D Wade here. I got my Marquette guy here with me.
Yeah, and people forget that the Bulls almost started the rebuild a year earlier. There were some strong rumors that I've heard from sources that were pretty accurate that they almost traded Jimmy before the 2016 draft to Boston for a pick that would have been Chris Dunn. And they ended up getting Chris Dunn a year later in that trade where they also got Zach LaVine and the rights to Lauri Markkanen. And then they come to camp. They decided instead not to rebuild but try to fortify that team by bringing in Wade and Rondo, and then the irony is they nicknamed them the Three Alphas.
Yeah,
and that's what caused a lot of problems because they were all guys that wanted to kind of be the leaders, and there was a lot of clash within the ranks.
Well, I mean, and again, you got a young Jimmy Butler who's starting to now it's my team, and I think when you look at Jimmy and you look where Jimmy has gone, Jimmy is a great player. Okay, he's a player that he's been blessed with work ethic. He may not be the most talented player. He may not be the fastest or the highest jumper, but he's made himself into the player that he is today. But there's always baggage with that. Mm-hmm. If you can deal with Jimmy's, his personality, his ego, if you can handle that, Golden State right now seems to be able to handle that because you got Draymond Green in the locker room, Steph Curry, you got Steve Kerr. He respects those guys. And Jimmy has to respect you. And I don't think he had respect for Fred Hoiberg as a young coach. I don't think he had respect for a lot of the younger players, Denzel Valentine. That's the kind of veteran when you got a guy like Denzel Valentine, a young player coming from Michigan State. He's a draft pick. You need your veteran. Yeah, you can be hard on him. You could be hard on them, and your expectations could be more than what they think they can. But you also got to be nurturing to those guys too, because you could destroy kids' confidence. You look at Denzel Valentine in Michigan State. I don't care what he did as a pro, but in Michigan State he was a player. Okay, he was a very good player in a big time conference. Coming here, I think being around those kind of veterans, I think it hurt his confidence a little bit, and he never was able to get his confidence where it needed to be. I think he started questioning his ability, and when you got veteran players like that and strong-willed players that are calling you out and saying, this guy needs to do this guy needs to do that. Now, sometimes those guys, certain guys, you can get that to motivate, and there's other guys you got to just give them a hug and say, hey, look, we need more out of you.
And a lot of fans always want to say, well, we never should have traded Jimmy. He became playoff Jimmy and was scoring all these points. It wasn't going to work here, folks. I mean, that there was a disconnect in the organization that he would not have become the Jimmy Butler he became.
It's easy to blame the Bulls. It's easy to say, well, the Bulls didn't do this for Jimmy, didn't do that for Jimmy, okay? But all you got to do is look, there's a pattern. All you got to do is look at every team he's been on. Yeah. And I love Jimmy. I'm a big Jimmy. I gave him his nickname, Jimmy Buckets, okay? But if you look at everywhere he's been, there's been issues. After a certain period of time, Jimmy turns into, he wants more. He wants a new contract. He wants this. He wants to be paid like the top 5 player. If he doesn't get it, then I'm going to make it hell for everybody here. If it had just been the Bulls, you could say, well, the Bulls were wrong. Yeah, they were wrong about Jimmy, but it was in Minnesota. It's been in Philadelphia. It's in Miami.
Even Pat Riley.
Was like, I'm done. So we can sit here and you can sit here and be delusional, and it's easy to blame the Bulls. Everybody want to blame, Gar and Pax and all that. You guys ran Jimmy out of here. That's not the case. If you, like I said, if you're a realist and you've seen it. You're not hearing about it. You've actually seen it. You've seen it play out in different organizations. So. How long was it going to take before it happens in Golden State? Like he just got paid. They gave him his money. He got his 2 years guaranteed. So how long is it going to take before he gets tired of playing with Draymond and Steph Curry and Steve Kerr before he has to be traded?
It'll happen.
Because it's a pattern. It's everywhere he's gone. It's not. You can't blame the organizations. It's got to be sometimes the player has to have some accountability too, because, you hear the stories in Minnesota, okay? You can still say, okay, it's still the Bulls' fault, okay? All right? If Jimmy gets booted out of Minnesota, they send him to Philadelphia. What happens there? Philadelphia gets rid of him. They decide to sign Tobias Harris and give him the big money and jet Jimmy out of there. Yeah. So then you go to Miami. Perfect situation. Organization. Heat culture. They work hard. No one's going to work. They practice hard. They expect you to come do your day's work and put in a full day's work. No reason why he shouldn't thrive in that situation. Takes him to a couple of finals. They didn't have enough to win, but he took him there. So then all of a sudden now you start to wear out your welcome. You're ready to fight. Spoelstra is ready to fight you on a timeout one night. You know, Haslam had to step in and tell you to back off or he's going to mess you up. And then all of a sudden you start questioning Pat Riley, and Pat Riley's like, okay, we're done. This is over. We got this guy is gone. So now he's at Golden State.
Yeah, there's a lot more involved in what you see in just the box scores and the stat lines. There's personalities. You have to be able to coexist with everybody in the organization, and that can cause problems around the league and in all of professional sports. Hey, I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, our buddy Jeff Vukovich. If you have any auto insurance needs or home and business, Jeff is the guy to call. You can contact him at jeffvuk.com, jeffvuk.com. The phone number, 847-825-4783. And the best jingle in the business, courtesy of Stacey King.
And remember, Nationwide is on your side.
Nicely done. Jeff's seen it all in Chicago sports, and you can contact him. He will take great care of you. Before we get out of here, I want to send along our congratulations to Modest Buzelis.
Yes.
He was named second team All-Rookie, and I'm sure he would have been first team had he been playing big minutes throughout the year.
Listen, I joke all the time. The best defense Modest saw was Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan was he's all-world defensive player in the first half of the season. But, again, second team's not bad.
Right.
I mean, there was a lot of talented kids. I mean, that's a very good second group there, The Ware kid could have easily been in the, up there in the first team, and so could Modest. But, again, the Bulls got a good one in Modest. Got a good one. This is a big summer for him, strength-wise.
He'll work hard, too.
Yes, he's a hard worker. He wants to be great. That's the good thing. Bulls Nation, if you really want to, attach yourself to a player, attach yourself to this kid. He's from Chicago. He wants to be great. He doesn't just want to be good. He wants to be great, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to be great.
Yeah, a lot of people talked about this rookie class not having a lot of star power in it. You got the first team All-NBA. Obviously, Stephon Castle was the Rookie of the Year. It's some big men in here with Edey and Alex Sarr. You had a couple of guys from the Grizzlies. And, of course, you see the number one pick, Zachary Risa-Shea. So it wasn't really a superstar class, but I think a lot of these guys are going to turn out to be, maybe if not all-stars, guys who are really top performers in the league.
Well, if you look at those 10 guys right there, you're looking at guys that will possibly have careers 10 years plus. Whether they're superstar players or not, I honestly think there's probably 2 or 3 of them that could actually be all-stars. I think Modest is one of them. I think the kid Edey is another one.
Like McCain, too, would have made
a team. McCain probably would have been Rookie of the Year.
He's going to help the Sixers.
Yeah, he might have been Rookie of the Year had he been healthy.
So they get the third pick in the draft, and they get McCain back. So now the question is, can Paul George and Embiid consistently give you something?
Well, listen, I'm going to have to, if I'm Philadelphia, I'm moving those guys. Seriously.
Try to get you honest?
I'm just moving them. If whatever deal we can get for them, because listen, Joel Embiid is always hurt. And I think the worst thing that ever happened to that kid was when they basically redshirted him his first year, both him and Ben Simmons. They let him sit out the whole year at the NBA level because they didn't want him to get hurt, want to make sure they were healthy. And I think that set a precedence on how they're going to handle him the rest of the way in his career. And he's kind of bought into that. Like, okay, if I'm hurt, if my toenail hurts a little bit, I can sit out 2 weeks. Or like recently in the season started, you knew your knee was hurt, but you went to go play for Team USA. You put outside interests ahead of the team interest. So I'm moving him because I think from here on out and you could get a lot for him. You can get a big package for him because I think there's a lot of teams that would pay to get him because he's a former MVP. And when he's healthy, he's a monster out there. And then you may get a motivated Joel Embiid if he's traded because he'd be trying to prove a point. Like, oh, Philadelphia gave up on me. So then you might see a guy win 1 more or 2 more MVPs. And then if you're Philadelphia, it's like, hey, look, let's just cut bait and let's rebuild. We got McCain. We'll have a good pick at number 3, whoever that may be, Ace Bailey. Paul George always seems to be hurt as well. So you got 2 aging veterans that are on the wrong side of 30 that you could get a lot for. You could turn into Oklahoma City by getting some picks for those guys.
We're going to see a ton of rumors between now and the start of the draft, which is on June 25th. I saw a rumor this past week that, the 76ers are going to try to dump that contract. If you're the Bulls, would you take the George contract and the number 3 pick if they give you that take on it? Because that's a lot of money to take on, obviously. I think that he's got like 2 or 3 years left on that deal, too.
Listen, I don't think I'd take that deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the pick, but I don't like taking all that dead money back. That's a lot of money to take back, and what you're doing is you're helping Philadelphia.
Right.
We can do without 3rd pick, but just take this contract that we know we made a mistake on, and we give it to you. Now, if you could be guaranteed that Paul George is going to play 75, more games a year to finish that contract out, you make that deal.
See, this Paul George is mainly just a 3-point shooter. He doesn't give you that game he used to where he could put the ball on the deck, he could attack the rim.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt, Mark, because playing with a system that is really, contoured for Embiid,
and
ball
Maxey,
inside
Maxey
and
has
Maxey.
the ball in his hands.
Yeah, so I will give him a pass on that. I still think when Paul George is healthy and his mind's right, I think he's an elite player in this league. He can shoot the ball, he can defend. He's kind of gotten away from the defensive part of it. He used to be a really good two-way player. And I think as long as he's healthy, but his health is always an issue. He's one of these guys that you'll be lucky to get 65 games in a year from him. And if you're a team going to take on that contract, that's not a big enough guarantee for me.
So 3 teams for me to watch as we approach the draft and trade season. Philadelphia, what are they going to do with Paul George and maybe pair that 3 pick? Milwaukee, certainly. Giannis supposedly is going to meet with Bucks officials sometime in the coming days to talk about his future. And you look at Miami. Pat Riley's not just going to sit back and say, well, we're going to be a play-in team every year. He's going to try to get Kevin Durant or somebody to fortify that group.
But they don't really have a lot to give.
That is true.
They got a lot of – the thing about Miami, they got a lot of good role players. They don't have a star player. I mean, Tyler Hero, is he a star? He's putting up numbers there because he's the best player, second best player. I think Bam, you'd have to get rid of Bam to go get a Kevin Durant or someone like that. No one's going to take a bunch of guys that are maybe the Ware kid. How many first round picks they got? I think the team you need to watch out for is San Antonio
and Houston
because
too.
San Antonio and Houston have a young team. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of assets, and they could make a serious run for Giannis. Now, with that said, with San Antonio. You got Greg Popovich now, who's not the coach, but he's still going to be in the front office. He's still going to be the guy calling the shots.
El Jefe.
Yeah, so El Jefe, yeah. So if he's got a chance to go get a Giannis, but not having to give up a lot for him, like you're not giving up Wemby and you're not giving up Castle. Those are the 2 guys that are pretty much untouchable. You got to do.
If you get Giannis,
you got to get Giannis. You're going to have to give up somebody. But I don't even think Milwaukee would even want De'Aaron Fox because they don't really need a point guard. They're trying to if they're getting rid of Giannis, that means you're in a rebuild. That means you want young guys.
I watch Miami. If you get Kelley Ware, you get Tyler Hero, who's from Milwaukee. You could sell him to the fan base and a bunch of picks. And you have to throw another player in there too. Jaquez maybe.
Jaquez has fallen out of favor there. He went from playing as a rookie.
He didn't play much.
Yeah. Well, there was rumors that TMZ rumors that he was like messing around with Spoelstra's ex-wife. That's what they said.
Well, that'll cost you some playing time.
Yeah, that cost some serious playing time. Oh, come on, baby. You know what they say? Don't poop where you eat, baby. Come on, Hawkheads. Come on, man. There's a million women out there. You didn't have to go there. But
Stacey's got the direct line to TMZ.
Hey, listen,
there you go.
Listen, But I will say this. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what Giannis says because if Giannis says, I want to be moving, I don't really think Giannis really wants to leave. I think what he likes to do is he likes to troll the media per se, just to get it out there, see what people will say. I don't think he really wants to leave because he seems like a very loyal guy. People who take care of him, he's not willing to leave those people. He seems like a very family-oriented guy. He's already entrenched in the Milwaukee community. He's got a restaurant. We talked to our good guy, Lou Canellis, last week. They got a restaurant in Milwaukee. If you're doing all that, you're not trying to lead the city.
I think if he does leave, though, he's going to want to stay in the East because there's a clearer path to the finals.
Well, then you're looking at like,
Miami.
like he wants to be in a big city.
Yeah.
He wants to be in, but he doesn't want to go somewhere where they're rebuilding. So you're looking at somewhere like,
maybe the Knicks try to swing.
Well, maybe the Knicks would be involved. You probably
Anunoby, Bridges.
Yeah, you could probably get Anunoby and Bridges. You could probably Josh Hart. I know they got some first-round picks, so who knows? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the summer works out. I don't see him going anywhere because I think he loves Milwaukee. He won't admit it, but I think he loves Milwaukee. The fan base really, really loves him there. Mm-hmm. And like I said, when you have businesses there and you got your hands in the community, it's hard for you to leave. You look at Drew Holiday, who didn't ask to be traded, who got traded, and he's got all, he's entrenched in Milwaukee. And that was hard for him. Yeah. You hear him still talking about it, even though he's in Boston, he still talks about the love for Milwaukee. So I don't see Giannis going anywhere unless they get a deal that just knocks off their socks, or unless Giannis goes to them and says, yeah, I want to be traded.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. We've got, a month and a half until the draft, and we'll see what kind of trade rumors and eventually what kind of deals are made. And if Giannis says he wants to go, buckle up. It's going to be fun to watch. I understand you said you got a surprise at the end of the show?
Yes, you know what? We're caught up in this baby craze where they're making celebrities into babies. Uh-huh. So someone sent me a picture of you and me, Mark, as babies. That's an AI generated.
That's fantastic.
They took a picture of us. We're in Oklahoma City. Remember? Oklahoma City.
Oh yeah.
And they took a picture of us and they sent it to me. And I said, "Oh my God, I got to let Mark see this."
That is too much.
That's us right there.
Well, whoever sent that in, I appreciate that. That is hilarious.
That's the new craze now. If you've been watching it, they have all these these movies. They turn all these movies into there we are right there. A handsome couple right there. They're looking good right there, top 10 in Montana. So they're doing this little baby craze thing. So and I've been reposting them. Yeah. So this person saw that I did it, and they sent me some with they had one with Neil. Yeah. They had one with Adam, but he didn't look like Adam. I wasn't gonna repost that one. They didn't like Adam. But yours, I was like, okay, that's Mark right there. That's Mark.
Well, we appreciate that. Thanks for sending that in, and that was a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun on the show. Michael Carter-Williams, a great guest. I think we're gonna have a special guest next week. You're telling me?
Yeah, next week. We got my man Bill Cartwright. I just want to say I'm the greatest Bulls center of all time.
Bill's got a book out. We'll talk about that, what he's been up to lately, and catch up on all the great stories from the Bulls championship run in the early 90s. Again, thanks to our Michael Carter-Williams. Thanks to Cisco, again, doing everything, getting the graphics.
He's like an octopus, baby. He's got 8 arms. He's out there everywhere. He's got his hands everywhere.
And we appreciate our guys, Nick and Dee, doing great work behind the scenes. Nick on social media, Dee making sure all the feeds get out, and want to thank everybody for watching and listening. Shout out to everybody watching on Chicago Sports Network. Until next week, and Mr. Bill, Stacey.
Drive home safely, Chicago. Beep, beep.
That's a huge three! Mustard! Lonzo left alone. Able to swerve, bend that corner. That's the last time I'm going to see it. Williams straight up.